Welcome everyone, this is Trinity Storm here and you are watching 14th part of Naruto the Unknown Dojutsu. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Meanwhile, instead of simply using his meteor, Naruto chose to run to the Hyuga compound. He had met Jiraiya outside of his apartment, and his sensei had informed him that he would be waiting at the gates while his student said goodbye to all of his friends. The blonde Chunin's backpack was already packed, and he was sprinting towards his girlfriend's house. Many people were staring at him along the way, some with fear in their eyes, while the kids mostly looked at him with admiration, having heard of his heroic deeds during Suna and Otto's failed invasion of the village. Even with all eyes on him, Naruto paid no attention and focused his attention solely on getting to the Hyuga compound. The blonde ninja arrived at the compound after a long run from his home. He took a few deep breaths before approaching the brown gate. After patiently waiting, one of the estate's guards opened it. "What are you doing here?" he asked bluntly of the boy. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and Hinata is supposed to meet me here," he replied, rubbing the back of his head. "Is she present?" The guard looked him up and down a few times, which he found disturbing because he thought he was being molested. "Wait here," the guard said as he walked away into the compound, presumably to find Hinata. Naruto crossed the street to the other side of the street and leaned against the wall, thinking deeply, assuming that he would be late. "I wonder what I could do in my spare time while we're out on that mission," he pondered. "You could train your eyes, you know," Kurama suggested. "You said you had to work on your meteor during the meeting yesterday, right? Can't you come up with anything else?" Naruto retorted, crossing his arms and groaning at the biju within him. "I already know I need to do some training on that, okay? I'd like to do something other than fly around the sky, exhausting myself." "Well, if your mate had agreed to accompany you on this mission, I would have suggested that you give her another wonderful time." Then, he attempted to make a suggestion, but was cut off by his host. "Again with your perversion. Do you even know what the word privacy means? What Hinata and I do in private is none of your concern. Instead, take up a hobby or do something. It's entirely my business, Kit, because I am a part of your body." The fox gave him a sinister grin. "So, whether you like it or not, I'm right here to give you advice on how to punish your friend when she asks. Remember how I said I'm the ultimate alpha male? I've got better things to do than keep talking to a perverted fox like you," groaned the blonde, sticking his tongue out at the giant biju before disconnecting their connection. When he returned to reality, he saw his girlfriend, Hinata Hyuga, walk out of the gate of her clan's compound. Despite the fact that she had just received her very own flak jacket, she was still dressed in her regular clothes. She decided to only wear her flak jacket when the Hokage assigned her official missions. She looked to the left and right at first, as if looking for him, before noticing him leaning against a wall on the other side of the street. She gave him a big smile before sprinting towards him with open arms. In response, Naruto moved away from the wall he was leaning against and took a step forward, spreading his arms wide. Hinata nuzzled into his vest gently, smiling at his touch, as the two greeted each other with a tight hug. Naruto gently placed his chin atop Hyuga's head and smiled, savoring the brief moment they were sharing. That is, until they were abruptly separated by a voice. "Take it easy, there. You two are hugging so tightly that you might break each other's bodies." Both Chunin stepped away from the hug to look at whoever was speaking, and they paled slightly when they saw that it was Hiashi Hyuga, who had just spoken and was now walking towards them. "It appears that my daughter was very excited to see you today, Naruto-san," he remarked, a small smile on his face. "How are you doing right now?" he inquired of the youngster. "Oh. Actually, I'm doing quite well," he responded with a bow, showing his respect for the Hyuga clan's leader, while also sweating slightly, perplexed by Haishi's sudden change of attitude. "In fact, I'm ready to go on the mission," he exclaimed, pointing to the backpack he was carrying behind him. I just wanted to see Hinata off before I leave so I could properly say goodbye. That's correct. Today you and Jiraiya-san have a mission, he then addressed his daughter. Well, since you want to say goodbye properly, why don't you two take this to the village gates? He suggested, widening both Chunan's eyes slightly. You'll be able to send Naruto-san off personally, Hinata. He said warmly to the girl. And you two can spend whatever time is left before this boy leaves for his mission. Are you serious, too-sama? Hinata asked, unable to believe what her father had just told the two of them. Just get back to your regular training, Hinata. Even though you did well in the exams, you must continue to improve your taijutsu. And because Hanabi sees you as a role model, you should fulfill your role as her sister as well. Do you understand that as soon as Naruto-san leaves with Jiraiya, you must return home? He looked at his daughter, who smiled warmly before wrapping her arms around him, surprising him. Hiashi was in a trance at where he was standing when she pulled away a few seconds later. Of course, father, the Hyuga heiress responded. If I want to be by Naruto's side Kun's all the time, I have to be as strong as him. She declared, causing Naruto to blush slightly. And I don't want Hanabi to regard me as a weakling. I want her to regard me as her sister. She then mimicked Naruto's grin, causing the blonde boy's jaw to drop to the ground as he saw his girlfriend trying to imitate him. He coughed a few times to break his trance before bowing slightly to the two teenagers. Alright, then. Good luck on your mission with Jiraiya-san, Naruto-san, he said before turning his gaze to the girl. And I'll see you later, Hinata, he said as he turned on his heel and walked back towards the Hyuga estate, leaving Naruto and Hinata standing where they were. The boy tapped his lover's shoulder a few times, which drew her attention and caused her to turn to him with a curious expression. Did something bad happen to your father? Naruto inquired, his brow furrowed. He was perplexed by Haishi's abrupt change of attitude today, as he had previously perceived the older man as strict, calm, and emotionless. Today, he was just like any other dad out there, happy but a little strict. He seems a little happier and nicer today. Did something happen between the two of you yesterday? He also appears to be fine with us hugging earlier. Oh, don't worry about him. With a wave of her hand, Hinata assured him. Perhaps he's still a little overjoyed because we made up yesterday, she explained, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. She noticed his response and decided to elaborate. That is correct. You see, after I left your house yesterday, I went home and immediately wanted to find him and thank him for allowing us to be together, as you mentioned. When I finally found him, I hugged him before thanking him. Then we had a little heart-to-heart about why he mostly ignored both me and my sister after Ka-san died. Naruto grinned. As Hinata's lover, he was relieved that she had reconciled with her father. He understood Haishi's pain at seeing Hinata sad when he spoke with him yesterday, and the boy wanted to help in any way he could. When he discovered that he was the reason for the Hyuga heiress's constant smile, he felt warm inside and was taken aback by the revelation. If that's how she felt about him, the girl must adore him. After Hiashi thanked him for providing Hinata with the happiness that she never received from her father, Naruto reasoned that it would be appropriate if Hinata thanked her father as well. They can move on with their relationship and become known in public now that he knows she thanked her father. Because, well, why not? They knew their love for one another knew no bounds, and since the girl's family approved, what was there to lose? Nice to know, he said, holding out his left hand. Shall we continue? Hinata, on the other hand, grabbed his arm and buried it between her ample cleavage, causing Naruto to blush furiously. I'm ready. Let's go. She said cheerfully as they began walking towards Konoha's gates. It's ironic that when they're in bed, Hinata is embarrassed by all their sexual exploits, but when they're out in public, he's the one who's embarrassed. How the powerful have fallen. I think that's enough resting for us, Kisame, Itachi said as he finished his cup of tea. If we want to find the Kyuubi, we need to get moving. Wait a second, Itachi, we don't even know where to start looking, Kisame replied, finishing his drink and raising an eyebrow at Itachi. I'm not the type to go around asking people about a kid's whereabouts. Hey, you know what? One of the men eating and conversing with the two Akatsuki members said. What? His two companions asked in unison. Uzumaki Naruto is apparently on a mission today. According to reports, he will join the legendary Jiraiya the Toad Sannin on a mission to find Tsunade Senju. Sandame Sama stated that when the Slug Princess returns to the village, he will appoint her as the Godem Hokage, 5th Hokage. I saw Jiraiya Sama waiting at the gates for Uzumaki Naruto. They must be leaving early in the morning. Whoa, another Senju becomes Hokage of the village. Muttered the baldest of the three. Do you think it's in their blood to become the leaders of this village? He asked, to which the two other guys nodded. Just my luck, Kisame grumbled, clutching the cup tightly in his right hand, causing it to crack slightly. The Kyuubi is about to leave when we just arrived. Alright, Kisame, let's go. The Uchiha said as he rose from his seat. You should get up now if you want to catch up and save your energy for restraining the Kyuubi. He then exited the stand, leaving the shark-like man to mope inside. TCH, fine, he muttered to himself before rising from his seat and following his partner outside. The two Akatsuki members continued their mission to find Naruto, approaching the village gates when they encountered two familiar faces, at least to Itachi. You're not a Konoha shinobi, are you? Asuma Sarutobi asked, his gaze fixed on the two unknown people in front of him and Kurenai. The two Junins had been watching them since they passed by the food stand where they were drinking tea earlier, and Asuma suspected them of being up to no good given the strange cloak they were wearing. Nothing but silence came from the two cloaked men moments later. Well? Are you two deafening, he went on with a sarcastic tone. It's been a long time since, Asuma-san, Kurenai-san, the shorter of the two said monotonously, causing the two mentioned Junins to furrow their brows in confusion. You must be a shinobi of this village if you know who we are, Asuma continued. Please show us your face. In response, Itachi raised his hat slightly, allowing them both to see his red Sharingan eyes. Kurenai and Asuma both tensed when they looked into his eyes. Itachi, you Uchiha? Asuma exclaimed in disbelief as Itachi tossed his hat to the side, allowing his hair to blow in the breeze. The Uchiha locked his gaze on the two Junins in front of them, attempting to intimidate them with his Sharingan. Do you know who these people are, Itachi? Kisame inquired of his partner, who responded with a slight nod. Then I should introduce myself. He then removed his hat, dropping it on the ground, revealing his shark-like grin beneath as he spoke in an amused tone. My name is Hoshigaki Kisame, and it's a pleasure to meet you. What business do you have here? Asuma demanded angrily. And you've got the guts to come here after what you've done? He cast a quick glance at Kurenai and considered their current situation. This is bad, both of them are more than just ordinary shinobi, he thought to himself. I can't just leave Kurenai here to summon help, and she can't do the same. I guess we'll just have to wait and hope that help arrives. He then returned his gaze to the shinobi in front of them. Are you two just going to stand there or are you going to fight? He asked, accusingly pointing his index finger at them. Well, Itachi, Kisame chuckled. It appears you've established quite a reputation for yourself in this village. I recognize you, Kurenai said, looking up and down at Kisame. My name is Kisame Hoshigaki, and I used to be a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. The man mentioned grinned evilly, seeing that someone from another village recognized him. His fame must have spread to the Land of Fire by now. By coming here, Itachi, you've put yourself in a lot of trouble. Asuma said, smiling. What exactly do you want? You wouldn't go back to your home village if you didn't have something you wanted, would you, traitor? He spat out the final word with venom in his voice, trying to be dangerous. "Let us go because our mission has nothing to do with you," Uchiha replied, his face expressionless. "We have no plans to fight you. Are you not going to talk?" The knife-wielding Junin was mocked. "Breaking news. You won't get anywhere unless you answer our questions. What brings you to the village, and why are you here?" "You're getting annoying," Kisame said as he grabbed the hilt of the massive sword on his back and firmly planted it on the ground, causing chunks of rock to fly out and dust to form around it. "Should I just shut them up?" he asked, smirking. Itachi closed his eyes and exhaled deeply. "It appears that we will not leave without a fight." Itachi and Kisame vs. Konoha's Junin. Kisame acted quickly after Itachi said that. He quickly picked up his sword from the ground and dashed towards Asuma, catching the latter off guard. When Kisame began swinging his sword in an attempt to hit him, he jumped back a few times. After avoiding the third strike, the Junin drew his two trench knives and locked blades with the legendary monster of the hidden mist. Asuma knew this wasn't going to be an easy opponent because he was famous for his abilities all over the world, so he cast a knowing glance at Kurenai. The woman quickly went through a series of hand seals before disappearing in thin air. Genjutsu? Itachi reflected as he used his Sharingan to observe the ongoing battle. Asuma began to sweat nervously as he lost the blades battle with Kisame. He was being pushed back by his opponent's raw power, despite only using one hand to wield his sword. What power? He thought as he looked Kisame in the eyes. Such strength with only one arm. The massive sword was approaching his shoulder, and he needed to think quickly or he'd be cut. With that, he summoned all of his strength and began fighting back with equal zeal. "My sword, Samahata, doesn't cut, it shreds," said Kisame, pulling his sword back, removing the bandages that covered it, revealing very sharp scales underneath that shredded through Asuma's arm, drawing blood and making the latter hiss in pain. Asuma grinned, sensing Kurenai had her genjutsu ready, despite the intense pain he was experiencing. "You're running late, Kurenai," he remarked, clutching his arm wound. The ground around Kisame began to dematerialize before his words, trapping him and impeding his movement. A tree then sprouted behind Itachi and ensnared him, preventing him from moving at all. When the Uchiha looked up, she saw Kurenai sprouting from within the plant, holding a kunai. "This will be your end," she exclaimed as she moved in to kill Itachi. But then, a few moments later, the woman found herself in the same situation as Itachi, pinned to the tree she had just created. Her gaze was drawn to the Uchiha, who was sprinting towards her with his own kunai. Kurenai quickly bit her lip to break the genjutsu after realizing he had reversed the illusion she had created. She ducked under Itachi's horizontal swing to avoid the attack, but the latter took advantage and gave her a kick that she barely blocked, but the force was enough to send her into the nearby river. "Kurenai!" Concerned, Asuma yelled. Kurenai was still recovering from the last hit she took at the top of the river when Itachi appeared next to her with a menacing look on his face. "That was a brilliant strategy, Kurenai-san." He then moved in closer to her. But, before he could continue, the Uchiha was interrupted by another person. "But this is the end for you," a voice from behind the Uchiha said. He quickly turned around and confronted Kakashi Hatake. Meanwhile, Asuma was doing his best to avoid every swing Kisame tried to throw at him, until he saw an opening. He immediately retaliated with a slash of his own, leaving the shark-like man with a cut on his cheek. Kisame winced in pain for a second before delivering a powerful kick to the Konoha Junin, knocking him backwards. He then began to go through a few hand seals in preparation for one of his signature techniques. Suiridan no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique. He yelled, and a large water dragon emerged from the river and charged towards his opponent. Before the dragon could even reach Asuma, another water dragon of the same size appeared out of nowhere and clashed with Kisame's technique, negating each other and rendering both disabled. What the hell? The same jutsu? Kisame wondered, surprised. Your students were correct, Asuma said, smiling at his colleague's appearance. You're earlier than everyone else, Kakashi. I apologize, the silver-haired ninja said. Anko made me eat breakfast with her. Kurenai's eyes widened as she noticed another Kakashi appear in front of Asuma, and she then cast a glance behind Itachi. Shadow clones, she explained. Kakashi drew a kunai and pointed it at Itachi's neck. What is a rogue ninja like you doing in this village? The Uchiha turned around and looked him in the eyes. They're still the same eyes from before. He thought as he looked into Itachi's Sharingan. That being said, he's a pure Sharingan user. I have to prepare for the worst just in case. Well, this is certainly unexpected. Kisame remarked, smiling at the sight in front of him. No wonder you were able to copy my jutsu. So there is someone other than Itachi who has that eye. He then directed his finger at Kakashi. If I'm not mistaken, Kakashi Hatake, you're the copy ninja, correct? I'm the one who is surprised, Kakashi said neutrally. I saw two mysterious men at the tea house, but I didn't expect them to be Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki, the monster of the hidden mist and current holder of the legendary sword, Samahata. He then returned his attention to Kisame's large sword. My, oh my, you remember my name. Kisame grinned, what an honor. By the way, I've heard rumors that that kid Zabuza duked it out with you? Yeah, we're actually pretty close. Kakashi then drew a kunai and held it behind him as the shark-like man in front of him raised his sword into the air and pointed it at his opponent. You know, you're someone worth chopping off. He was about to attack when he was stopped by a certain voice. Itachi Uchiha shifted his gaze to Kisame's figure. Don't even consider it, Kisame. He spoke up, causing his partner to freeze and drawing everyone's attention in the process. If you go at it with the copy ninja, it will cost you something. And if you spend too much time fighting him, another ninja will appear. But don't lose sight of why we came here in the first place. You did not come here to be hurt. Would you mind telling me why you're even here in the first place? Inquired Kakashi, who stood in front of Asuma before vanishing in a cloud of smoke, revealing himself to be a shadow clone. With that, Itachi turned to face the person standing behind him and began speaking in his usual tone. We just came here to find what we were looking for, he said, raising an eyebrow in response to Kakashi's response. I'm not like Kisame, Hatake Kakashi. I'm not going to waste time. Both of them narrowed their eyes at the same time as his right hand produced 4 shuriken, causing Kakashi to leap away while performing a series of hand seals. Tiger snake snake rat snake tiger, Sweden. Suijin heki water release. Water formation wall, he said quickly, raising a water wall from the water and blocking 4 water drills that were about to hit him. Both techniques dissipated a few seconds later, revealing an unharmed Kakashi. He's fast, my eyes couldn't follow his hand seals. He thought, analyzing what had just happened before shifting his gaze to Itachi's shuriken. So those were just for show. A good way to catch your opponent off guard. Exactly what I expected from you, Kakashi. Itachi made a remark. Your analytical ability with that eye is astounding. An Itachi clone then crept up behind the silver-haired man and stabbed him in the back with a kunai, surprising everyone with the Uchiha's speed. Kurenai exclaimed, a shadow clone? His jutsu speed is excessive. Kakashi stood frozen for a few seconds before bursting into water, revealing himself to be nothing more than a water clone. Only a water clone? Exclaimed Kisame, before flashing a wicked grin. That copy ninja certainly lives up to his name. Even the jutsus of my village, he thought. Meanwhile, the real Kakashi was underwater, having just passed Itachi's feet and piqued his interest. Nice, Kakashi! Exclaimed Kurenai, taking the kunai Kakashi was holding while submerged. She was about to charge towards the Uchiha in front of her when the copy ninja jumped out of the water and tackled her before the Itachi behind them exploded, trapping the two Junins in the resulting smoke. Kakashi. Kurenai. Asuma yelled in concern before leaping into the river himself. How in the world did he cause the shadow clone to explode? After a few moments, water began to fall from the sky, showering Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai. Only Kakashi was injured, but his two other Junin friends were unharmed. Itachi then appeared in front of them, prompting the masked Junin to explain. "Don't just charge at him," he said between breaths. He became a Black Ops chief at the age of 13. With that, Kurenai and Asuma resumed their fighting stances. "To think he's this powerful," Asuma muttered. "No, you haven't seen his full power yet," Kakashi replied, cutting Asuma off. "I never expected a non-Uchiha clan member like you to have mastered the Sharingan to that extent." Itachi expressed his displeasure with Kakashi's use of the dojutsu. "However, your body isn't that of the Uchiha clan, so that eye of yours doesn't fit." "He's right, I get tired easily," thought the copy ninja. "There's a reason why the Uchiha clan is regarded as the strongest and most feared by people." The raven-haired man continued before closing his eyes. "I'll show you all the true power of the Sharingan, the Kekkei Genkai." He then slowly opened his eyes again, causing Kakashi's eyes to widen in shock and fear. "No way. It can't be." As Itachi was about to open his eyes again, Kakashi cursed in his head. "This is terrible. Don't look into his eyes, either of you," he told his two Junin colleagues, who immediately agreed and closed their eyes tightly. "Whatever happens, don't look into his eyes, or it'll be over for you. Only those who bear the Sharingan can now attack him," he continued, his gaze fixed on the Uchiha in front of him. "To a certain extent, you can resist the power of the Mangekyo with the Sharingan. But..." Kakashi raised his eyebrows at him. "You can't escape this technique unscathed because the only person who can is someone with the same Kekkei Genkai as you, a Sharingan user," he explained before locking eyes with the copy ninja. "Crap." He cursed, his eyes widening. "Tsukuyomi," Itachi exhaled. Kakashi found himself departing from reality the moment Itachi said that word, as when he opened his eyes, he was met with a red sky with a black sun and black clouds. When he looked at himself, he noticed that he was bound to a wooden cross. When he realized he was trapped inside a genjutsu, he tried to break it, but was stopped by a voice that was growing louder by the second. "It's pointless. This technique is unbreakable for people like you," Itachi said as he approached the defenseless shinobi with a sword in his hand. "I control everything while under Tsukuyomi's control, and you can't get away from it. I will stab you with this sword continuously for 72 hours, he then displayed his sword to Kakashi before continuing to speak. "Don't worry, because 3 seconds will pass once you return to the real world." Itachi then proceeded to stab Kakashi in the abdomen, causing the latter to scream in pain. When the pain subsided, he noticed a duplicate of himself conversing with a duplicate of Itachi in the distance. When he saw that the Itachi had stabbed his duplicate, he screamed in agony. Itachi suddenly began multiplying himself into 100 copies, each holding a sword. Kakashi also multiplied into numerous duplicates, all of whom were pinned to wooden crosses throughout the realm. There are 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds remaining. Itachi stated in front of him, and all of his copies advanced on the helpless Junin. When Asuma heard his friend wince in pain, he asked, "Kakashi, what happened?" After 3 days of torture inside Itachi's genjutsu, the silver-haired Junin was finally brought back to reality. He felt like he was about to pass out, so he dropped to his knees and held his balance with his 2 arms. He looked up at Itachi, panting heavily, and began to wonder about something. Why didn't he kill me? He wondered. Because I'm defenseless right now, why is he just standing there? The Uchiha hasn't moved since, only maintaining a hard stare at the fallen Junin. "Hey Kakashi," Kurenai said with her eyes closed. "Should we open our eyes now?" she asked, her tone fearful. "No." The fallen Junin yelled, his voice strained from the genjutsu he was subjected to. "Don't open your eyes yet, or you'll be out of the game." Kisame then appeared beside Itachi, his face filled with curiosity. His mind held on? He asked aloud, surprised that Kakashi hadn't passed out despite struggling on all fours. "But Itachi, you should stop with those eyes," he said to his partner, concerned. "You are aware that continued use will result in your blindness, correct? Are you looking for Sasuke?" Kakashi asked, staring Itachi down. "No," the Uchiha replied as the wind blew through his long, black hair. "We're on the hunt for the Yondaime's legacy." "So it's Naruto, then?" thought the copy ninja before speaking again. "Are you from the Akatsuki?" he asked, widening Kisame and Itachi's eyes and causing Kurenai and Asuma to let out a small gasp of surprise. "Kisame, we're bringing Kakashi." Itachi spoke up after recovering from his shock. Kisame nodded and dashed towards the fallen Junin, only to be intercepted and pushed back several meters towards Itachi's side by a powerful kick. The Uchiha looked surprised at his partner, as something had managed to push him back this far. When they saw who it was, both of them turned their gaze to the one who had the audacity to challenge them. Kisame's eyes widened slightly, while Itachi remained calm. "The next time you pick a fight with my sensei," said the blonde-haired ninja, looking down at the water. "Check the weather forecast, because it will rain," Naruto said as he stood in front of Kakashi with a kunai in hand, looking up at the two Akatsuki members. His teacher widened his eyes to see his student in front of him as he began analyzing his opponents. Wasn't Naruto supposed to be out with Jiraiya on a mission? Didn't he just leave? "Naruto, what are you doing here?" exclaimed Kakashi. Kurenai and Asuma opened their eyes when they heard the Chunin's name and saw that it was the blonde-haired Uzumaki standing in front of them. Both of them widened their eyes as another ninja entered the scene alongside Kakashi. The silver-haired Junin turned to the side and recognized Hinata Hyuga. The girl wrapped the older man's arm around her neck before jumping back towards the street parallel to the river, her teacher and Asuma onlookers. Hinata let Kakashi rest on the ground before proceeding to the metal railings that separated the land from the river. "Naruto-kun, I'm fine with Kakashi-sensei. He's currently sleeping," she called out to the blonde, making the boy smile. His plan's first phase had already been completed. "What are you doing here, Naruto?" Asuma inquired, completely disregarding the two opponents they were currently facing. "Aren't you supposed to be with Jiraiya-sensei on a mission?" "I was about to continue with the mission and meet Ero Sennin at the gates when I saw Kakashi-sensei," the boy explained. "I wanted to say goodbye before I left, but then I saw you all fighting here." "Why is Hinata with you?" Kurenai inquired, concerned for her student's well-being. "She was supposed to see me off before I left, but then something happened. I tried to persuade her to leave while she still had the chance, but she was too stubborn," he responded, turning his head to face Kurenai. "Naruto!" Kakashi shouted from the street, drawing the boy's attention. The Junin was holding on to the metal railings as he struggled to his feet, despite the intense trauma he was experiencing as a result of Itachi's genjutsu. "Don't look him in the eyes. You're up against two extremely dangerous S-class criminals. They're not the type to be trifled with." "I got that, sensei," he assured the older man before returning his attention to his opponents after noticing a strange pattern on one of their red eyes. He furrowed his brows for a split second before his eyes widened slightly as he quickly recognized the Kekkei Genkei he was seeing. "You're Uchiha Itachi, if I'm not mistaken. Sasuke's younger brother." The older Uchiha didn't respond, instead staring at the Uzumaki emotionlessly as his Mangekyo deactivated, reverting to the normal Sharingan form with 3 tomos. You are, without a doubt, him. What exactly are you doing in Konoha? Come to complete the mission by killing Sasuke now? He said this mockingly. Itachi closed his eyes and maintained his calm demeanor. Everyone has the right to their own business, he said monotonously. Kisame spoke while pointing his sword at the blonde with a sadistic grin. You must be the so-called Konoha's Rainmaker, aren't you, boy? He mocked in the same tone as Naruto. How about we test you to see if you're as strong as that bingo book said? He gripped Samahata tightly in his hand and prepared to fight, as did Naruto, but the same voice that had previously stopped him spoke up again, causing him to freeze in place. We didn't come here to fight the Kyuubi, Kisame. Itachi stated, trying to conceal his growing rage towards his partner. Were we only sent to capture him, or did you forget what we were told to do? The shark-like man growled in annoyance. Fine, he said as he shifted his gaze to the boy and dashed towards him. But at the very least, let me chop off those legs so I can carry him. Naruto was taken aback by how fast his opponent was, but he recovered quickly and activated his meteor in his right arm, hoping to catch Kisame off guard with a vicious punch. He would have gone for it if it hadn't been for a voice inside his head telling him to stop. Don't even consider using your meteor, Kit. When Kurama noticed his host using his meteor, he immediately warned him. What exactly do you want? Naruto quickly asked himself. Can't you see I'm preoccupied? I recognize that man, the Biju went on. Kisame Hoshigaki of the Hidden Mist Village is who he is. He was a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, a group that included your other teacher, Zabuza. He's been dubbed the Tailed Beast without a tail, and he lives up to his moniker. He not only has massive reserves, but his sword can also absorb chakra. So, do you have any brilliant ideas? And make it quick. He said to the Kyuubi, preparing to defend himself against the approaching swordsman. Kit, use whatever taijutsu you have. Before you do anything else, get rid of that damn sword of his. Taijutsu works well against him. Got it. He exclaimed, interrupting their conversation as he ducked beneath a horizontal slash from Kisame. When he felt he was about to be hit from above, he rolled to the side. Taking advantage, the blonde quickly went behind him and delivered an axe kick to his opponent, but Kisame was able to block it with his sword. Naruto then rebounded off him, landing back at the top of the water before allowing himself to fall on its surface to avoid another slash from Kisame. You stupid brat. Hold your breath. He then brought Samahata down in a vertical attack, intending to end things. He had hoped that this would be simple, but it appeared that he would have to exert some effort to capture the child. While he wanted to fight him, as Itachi stated, they were in Konoha to capture, not fight. Naruto rolled to his side, just as he had predicted, and Kisame took advantage of the situation. He quickly attacked Naruto's vulnerable state, but in a desperate attempt, the boy performed a kip up to avoid it and rushed back to Asuma's side. He ducked under another slash from a running Kisame and then performed the tiger seal before he could even get close to the Junin. Sweden. Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu. He yelled, creating 4 clones of himself as they rushed towards Kisame. The shark-like man grinned as he realized Naruto was actually fighting him more than Asuma, whom he had previously fought. He then began defending himself from all sides, as all of the clones had cornered him in his position. Hurry up, Kisame. Itachi said as he watched his partner battle the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I'm already finished, Kisame replied with a grin, spotting an opportunity to attack all of the clones at once. After avoiding a punch from Naruto's clone behind him, he swung Samahata around him in a circular slash, destroying all 4 clones and returning to water. He heard Naruto's voice behind him as he grinned at what he had done. The fight isn't over yet, he exclaimed, drawing his right arm back to punch the man on his back. This time, their roles were reversed, as Kisame ducked, rendering Naruto's attack ineffective. The blonde turned around for another strike but was stopped when Kisame kicked him in the face, knocking him back several meters and landing on all fours. The hidden mist monster snickered before charging at Naruto again, and this time the kid was defenseless. "Watch out, Naruto." When Kurenai saw Kisame raise his large sword in the air for the decisive blow, she warned the boy. "I know," muttered the blonde as he got down on one knee. "It's my win if I take you down," he exclaimed, his gaze fixed on the ground. "This is your last chance, stupid brat," Kisame said, a sadistic grin on his face, before delivering a downward slash to Naruto. He wasn't going for the kid's head, but rather a large shoulder wound that would force him to go with them. When he heard the sword swing downwards, Naruto snapped his head up and dodged to the side with lightning-quick reflexes. As time seemed to slow down around him, he drew back his right arm just as very sharp raindrops began to form on it. "Rainmaker. Rainmaker," he exclaimed as he delivered his signature lariat directly to Kisame's sword, Samahata, shocking everyone in the room with his attack. Kakashi, Kurenai, and Asuma all widened their eyes, wondering if Naruto was insane to even touch the sword with his arm, knowing what trick Kisame had up his sleeve to counter it. Meanwhile, the latter was caught off guard by Naruto's counter-jutsu to his attack, and he began to wonder why the boy hadn't been drained of chakra yet, despite the fact that he used a jutsu. Itachi's eyes widened slightly as he had never heard of such a jutsu before. Perhaps it was a new jutsu at the time? Or was it one of the boy's tricks, as he was dubbed, the Celestial Ninja, in the bingo book they read earlier? "Hey, why aren't you drained of your chakra yet?" Kisame inquired, perplexed as to why the boy was still standing after only a few moments. Naruto then began roaring like a wild animal, and Kisame's eyes widened at what he had just done. Samahata flew out of his grasp and flew towards the street opposite the one where he and Asuma had fought earlier, with the shark-like man following the path of his sword. "Impossible," he muttered in surprise, because a blonde boy had just disarmed him of his weapon. "I don't believe it," Asuma said, his eyes widening at what he saw. When he and the monster of the mist fought earlier, he struggled to inflict even a single wound on him due to the latter's legendary sword's edge. But Naruto did the unthinkable and took the sword away from him. Kurenai was too focused on the scene, and she was also shocked to the point where she couldn't speak. He took Kisame's sword from him, Samahata. Kakashi exhaled, pleased with his student's strategy. "That's right, his Rainmaker is a taijutsu, not a ninjutsu," he reasoned. "Because it's a taijutsu, it doesn't require chakra, which means he won't be drained." I shouldn't have doubted him for a second, he concluded, an eye smile on his face. "And Naruto so strong," she murmured quietly to herself, trying to keep her sudden arousal at bay. "A.N. scumbag. What kind of jutsu is that?" Itachi questioned himself. While Kisame stood there without a weapon, staring in the direction Samahata might have gone, he was forced to return to his fight when he heard a familiar voice. "Now it's my turn," screamed Naruto, prompting Kisame to return his gaze, but it was too late for the latter to respond because Naruto had already activated his meteor on his right arm. Naruto dodged a couple of hooks from his opponent by leaning back and ducking before finally landing a punch on Kisame's gut, causing the shark-like man to double over in pain. "Here's another one," he exclaimed before launching the monster of the mist several meters back with a powerful spinning kick. When he realized he could kill two birds with one stone, Naruto turned his head towards Itachi, activating his Uchtengan in the process. Itachi furrowed his brows and used his Sharingan to thoroughly examine the blonde's eyes, which he had never seen before. His yellow eyes. I've never seen anyone else in the world with them, he reflected. Just as I suspected. His eyes are yellow, and some chakra flowing through him is also yellow. He then noticed something unusual in the boy's chakra. Wait, what exactly is that white chakra? I've never seen such a vibrant color in a person's chakra. How unusual. Naruto is a very interesting kid. He'll easily capture Madara and Pain's attention if he continues to use his Uchtengan in front of a stranger. Raisei. Meteor, he yelled as his body was enveloped in bright light and he flew towards Itachi Uchiha in seconds. He's too fast. The Uchiha thought to himself as he sidestepped quickly, barely avoiding Naruto. Even my Sharingan can't keep up with his speed. It looks like that bingo book was correct. He thought as Naruto came to a halt after missing Itachi in his last attack. The boy turned around, and the Uchiha performed the Tiger Seal for his own counter. Kaden. Jikaki no Jutsu. Fire release. Great fireball technique, he then exhaled a massive fireball aimed at the Uzumaki. Responding quickly, Naruto performed a few hand seals before yelling and creating 2 energy beams on his 2 palms. Uchtengan. Sinaru Bakuf. Space release. Holy blast, he then threw the beams directly towards the ball of fire that Itachi had created, and once they made contact, the Uchiha's jutsu exploded into million particles, destroying and shocking everyone, including Itachi. Naruto kept his gaze fixed on Itachi until he heard something behind him. Turning around, he saw Kisame emerge from the water, clutching Samahata tightly.
I got you now, you brat.
He snarled before attempting another slash at the child. To avoid it, Naruto leapt into the air before activating his meteor once more, the yellow light covering his entire body faster than before, and he was now levitating in the air, staring at the 2 Akatsuki members below him. Kisame growled and pointed Samahata in the direction of the blonde who was way up in the air. You brat, you better get down here, he said. Come down here and fight, or do you want them to pay? He said, motioning to Asuma and Kurenai with his massive sword. He waited for the boy to respond, but Naruto didn't move from his current position in the air, and he was simply levitating while staring at both Kisame and Itachi. Are you not going to talk? He then began going through some hand seals. One of the things that irritates me the most, you brat, is being ignored. He completed the Ram seal. You're not going to ignore me after this. Before he could even perform his technique, Itachi stopped himself by raising his right arm and looking up at the Uzumaki flying above them. Kisame, please stop. You'll waste your energy on ineffective techniques. Itachi shook his head in disappointment. It appears that we underestimated the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's capabilities, and had we seen that bingo book sooner, we could have prepared. Hey, what are you saying? Kisame inquired. We're leaving, Uchiha stated flatly, surprising everyone in the room. As long as Naruto can fly in the air like that, he said, looking up at the blonde boy who appeared to be a real meteor at the time. We won't be able to apprehend him. If you attack, he can either avoid it by flying like that or save his teachers in an instant if you attack them. The best option is to retreat and relay this information to the others, so that we can be ready the next time we need to capture him. The shark-like man sighed and returned Samahata behind him, closing his eyes. Whatever, as long as I don't see that brat again, he said calmly. His demeanor irritates me. Kids got guts to ignore me like that. I don't like being ignored. When Naruto heard that both members of the Akatsuki were about to leave, he descended slowly from the sky, making sure that the 2 criminals didn't try anything devious, such as sneak up on him while he was defenseless. He finally landed on the surface when he was only an inch above the water and the bright light around him vanished into thin air. We'll meet again, Uzumaki Naruto, Itachi said, his Sharingan flaring as he and Kisame vanished in a blur. Kurenai and Asuma immediately turned their attention to Kakashi, who was still in a very weak state after what he had just gone through in Itachi's Tsukuyomi. After jumping out of the lake, Naruto turned around to see that both Junins had returned to the street where he had seen them fighting Itachi and Kisame earlier. When he landed on the street after deactivating his dojutsu, he saw them both, along with Hinata, surrounding an unconscious Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei! He screamed, attempting to run towards him but being stopped short when Hinata raised her right arm to stop him. Asuma and Kurenai stand up, carrying Kakashi in between them, his arms hooked over their shoulders, as he stands frozen in place. "You should get started, Naruto," Kurenai said, her face concerned as she looked at the Chunin in front of her. "We'll go to the hospital with Kakashi. Jiraiya-san is surely waiting for you at the gates, and he, like Kakashi, may be irritated that you're late." She tried to be silly because Naruto's gaze was still fixed on his teacher. "Kurenai-sensei, I can't just," he tried to reason, but Asuma interrupted him. "Look, kid, you don't have to act like the hero all the time, got it?" he said, forcing a grin. "To be honest, Naruto, that wasn't even your fight to begin with. And you were aware that those two were pursuing you earlier, correct?" Naruto did not respond, instead looking down at the ground. "So you didn't know, did you? Do you realize how dangerous it is to go toe-to-toe with them? You could have been hurt." The only person who can help Kakashi in the village right now is Lady Tsunade, and you standing here whining isn't going to get her back or help anyone, Asuma snapped at him, clicking his tongue. "If you want to help right now, Naruto, let us take Kakashi to the hospital," Kurenai said before looking at Asuma. "He is correct, Naruto. We must locate Lady Tsunade. She is our sole hope. Don't be concerned. You've accomplished enough for the day. We'll inform Sandame-sama of what happened today, but please also inform Jiraiya-sama when you see him. Go ahead and complete your mission for Kakashi. He'll be proud of you when you return, and tell him you did a good job looking for our potential Godam Hokage," she concluded cheerfully before looking at Kakashi as well. Naruto looked up, as if he wanted to continue arguing, but he stopped when he saw Hinata's pleading expression. "Just carry on with your mission, Naruto-kun. We'll look after Kakashi-sensei." In her own cheerful voice, she said. "You believe we can look after him, don't you? After all, a Chunin like you shouldn't stray from his original mission, should he? If I were the same person as you, Naruto-kun, I would have done as Kurenai-sensei instructed. Go to the gates and meet Jiraiya-sensei." She took a step forward and smiled at her boyfriend. "Do it for the village. And do it for me," she said quietly, causing Naruto to lower his head, most of his hair covering his eyes. He turned to the left and saw the backpack he'd left at the foot of the nearest bench, the bag he'd be carrying on his mission. He walked slowly towards it and slung the bag over his shoulder, causing Asuma and Kurenai to breathe a sigh of relief because they thought the boy would not stop until he achieved his goal of getting Kakashi to the hospital. He began to walk away from them, slinging his backpack over his shoulder, now heading to the gates to meet Jiraiya. But before he could be led away from them by his own feet, he turned around on his heel and began walking back towards them. Asuma and Kurenai gave him a disapproving look, knowing he wouldn't go down without a fight, but they didn't notice Naruto wasn't looking at Kakashi at all, and was entirely focused on Hinata. The girl was fully aware that Naruto's gaze was fixed on her, and she began sweating nervously, fearful of what he would do. But what he did next stunned everyone in the room, including Kakashi. Uzumaki, the blonde, grasped Hinata's left shoulder, her gaze following his hand. But her white eyes widened when Naruto suddenly leaned in and kissed her lips softly. She was so taken aback by his actions that she didn't even get a chance to respond because she didn't expect Naruto to do something like that. In shock at what Naruto had just done, Asuma, Kurenai, and Kakashi's eyes widened to the size of saucers and their jaws dropped to the ground. "What?" exclaimed the three Junins, unable to believe Naruto had just kissed the Hyuga heiress in front of them. A few seconds passed before Naruto drew away, and the second he did, Hinata's face flushed as she stared at his face. "And Naruto-kun," she said quietly, a faint smile on her face as Naruto's cheeks turned pink, making him even cuter. He had just kissed her, and she had forgotten about the rest of the world for a few seconds. She felt as if he had just breathed fire into her, and she was walking on air. She didn't even notice for a few seconds that her sensei and two other Junins were staring at her the entire time because her focus was solely on her boyfriend. After getting over his own embarrassment, Naruto let go of her shoulder and smiled at her. "I'll see you later, Hina-chan," he said, flashing a thumbs up. "Keep training," he exclaimed, and a flash of yellow light enveloped his body, activating his meteor. "Later," he exclaimed happily as he shot off like a rocket towards the village's main gates, leaving the Hyuga heiress staring at his yellow aura in the sky and the three Junins behind her gaping at what had happened between the two teens. At the Konoha border, Naruto deactivated his meteor while still in midair, causing him to tumble down a rooftop. He then used its steep shape to slide down to the ground, landing in a stylish manner. "Ero Sennin, I'm sorry for taking so long. I'll tell you what happened with me earlier," he said, rising to his feet and looking up. "You see, I was fighting two strange assholes who wanted to..." He then stopped mid-sentence when he realized his other teacher hadn't arrived yet. He looked to his left and right several times but couldn't find Jiraiya. After that, he walked to the middle of the street and began turning around a few times, but there was still no sign of the old pervert. "What the?" he was about to exclaim when he felt something grab his leg from behind him. Naruto smiled as the Uzumaki turned around to see a small child happily clinging to his right leg and laughing cutely. He then completely turned around and knelt down to be at eye level with the young boy. Naruto smiled, causing the boy to laugh even louder and cuter as he grabbed the blonde's face. Naruto made a funny face every time the child pinched his skin, which made the latter laugh even harder, warming the blonde Uzumaki's heart as he found the child innocent and easygoing with his current attitude. The little kid's enjoyment seemed to be cut short when a pair of hands grabbed him by the waist and lifted him up, separating the two. Naruto raised an eyebrow and rose to his feet as he noticed a woman carrying the boy he had been playing with until now. Maybe the woman is the child's mother? The woman abruptly began to speak in a slightly angry tone, and Naruto was prepared to walk away uninterested in case the woman scolded him harshly because, of course, he was treated as a demon by the villagers. "Cairo, I already told you not to go up and play with strangers, right?" she joked, pointing her index finger at the boy, trying to hide a smile of her own. The action only made the child known as Cairo laugh even harder. The woman then turned her attention back to Naruto. "Here we go again," he groaned to himself. "I apologize for my son's playfulness, Uzumaki-sama," she said, lowering her head and bowing in front of Naruto. The latter's eyes widened in surprise, as he hadn't expected that to come from the woman's mouth. When she looked up at Naruto again, the blonde had a surprised expression on her face. She then gulped loudly before quickly walking past the Uzumaki, her son clutched tightly in her arms. Naruto's gaze never left her as he walked past him, as he still couldn't get over her apologizing for something, and she even added an honorific to his first name. It was certainly unusual for him, as most of the civilian population referred to him as a demon or monster child. His shocked expression gradually changed to one of confusion, his eyebrow raised, and his lips tightly packed together in a straight line. What was that all about? He wondered. "It appears you're being treated with the respect you deserve," Kurama said, establishing their connection so they could communicate. "What exactly do you mean?" Naruto went on. He was perplexed by how the woman had previously acted towards him, and he wanted to know why. Given his history, it was most likely the first time a villager spoke to him in this manner. "They were most likely watching you during the Chunin exams, Kit," the tailed beast concluded, rubbing his chin. "They are either ashamed of how they treated you at the time, or they are simply terrified of you and what you can do to them. But, Kit, I'm going with the second option." That woman's voice was filled with fear, and I could sense it in her mind the moment she looked at you. "You made me sound like some kind of monster," the boy responded. "Well, for me, it's quite simple. Just don't provoke me, and we're good to go. I wasn't even doing anything wrong to her son before, so why should she be afraid?" Perhaps they're still aware of my presence within you, then. Look, you gaining new eyes just made you more menacing than just being my Jinchuriki in the eyes of the villagers, Kit. They all treated you harshly back then because you were just a simple, defenseless child. So seeing your fights in the exams made them even more afraid of you because you are in control of something powerful, which is your dojutsu. I wonder how long I'll have to put up with this. I can't stand everyone staring at me like I'm some monster. If they do that, my days in the village will become stranger than usual. Who could possibly accept it? I agree that everyone's expressions can be amusing. But if they keep it up, I might go insane. He ruffled his hair in frustration. Kurama laughed as he watched his host mentally torture himself. Kit, I'm sorry. That is exactly how I believe it will play out. You'll just have to learn to adjust to your new way of life when you wake up one day, haunted by the villagers' terrified expressions. Whatever. I'll just act as normal as I can whenever I come into contact with another villager. He decided. Eventually, they'll snap and realize I'm not as bad as I appear. I'm just a regular kid who is a chunin who is very loyal to the village and the will of fire. My eyes only grant me new abilities, not personality changes. That'd be awkward and sounds like something the Sharingan can do. He huffed, crossed his arms, and looked away. As long as I'm not intentionally provoked in any way, I'll just live like the ordinary villagers these people are. Good luck with that, Kit. Yawned the massive fox before retiring for the night. You do realize these people are obstinate, don't you? They are not going to change in the blink of an eye. I don't really care if they change, as long as they don't bother me. He then returned his attention to the Biju, who was about to fall asleep. So you're going to sleep, right? Kurama did not respond because he had already closed his eyes. Alright then, see you later. Naruto waved his hand goodbye before cutting off their connection and returning to the real world. When he felt his focus returning, he looked around to see if a specific someone had arrived yet, but Jiraiya was still not there. Naruto grimaced, realizing he'd fallen for it. Why would he think Jiraiya would show up early for their meeting? He's probably out there for research and to have fun. The boy screamed in frustration for a few seconds before speaking. God, Ero Sennin, where are you? He yelled. He then buried his face in his hands to keep his rage at bay, and that's when he heard it. Hello, Gaki. The blonde's head shot up, thinking he had just heard Jiraiya's voice, but Jiraiya wasn't in front of him. Come over here. Naruto turned his head in the direction of the familiar voice, and his eyes widened as he saw Jiraiya approaching him. A few seconds later, his eyes morphed into slits, and steam began to pour from his head in rage. Jiraiya was walking through the streets with a perverted grin on his face while two young women held his two arms. He also had his own small bag for the mission, except that his notebook for research was on his hands, though he wasn't writing anything on it yet. Are you kidding me? Naruto yelled internally as he stormed over to his teacher. Did he just make himself late for his REASEARCH? Oh, this guy is going to get a massive beating from me. By the time the boy was within striking distance of the pervert, the two women on his left and right sides had abruptly let go and bid farewell. Jiraiya didn't appear to be arguing, but he did wave his arm goodbye as they walked away. Give me a call, girls. He said with a smile as he watched the women walk away. Man, what a research trip. He exclaimed as he took a deep breath. Let's get started with Naruto. I need to find Tsunade. He said firmly, but when he turned around, he was met with the menacing scowl of his blonde student. Oh, there you are. He continued, oblivious to the rage on Naruto's face. Good thing you're already there. Let's get started on that mission. He grabbed Naruto's arm and started walking, but soon realized he wasn't going anywhere and that the boy's feet were firmly planted on the ground. Are you going to stand there all day? Are you trying to tell me? The boy began, his gaze fixed on the ground, while Jiraiya raised an eyebrow in perplexity at what he was saying. That you were out for your stupid research before even coming here? He continued, now looking up at Jiraiya with an enraged expression and his Uchtengan flaring to life. The Sannin began to sweat as he pondered why his student appeared and sounded angry. Did you even know we meet outside my apartment earlier? Look, Gaki, I didn't forget. He began to explain in his normal tone of voice. A couple of girls saw me after I left your apartment and asked for my autograph because they idolize the three Sannin. If I refuse a request from two beautiful ladies, I'm a fool. He exclaimed, beginning to have perverted thoughts of his own. Anyway, they invited me back to their house for a cup of tea, and we talked for a while after that. Then they decided to accompany me all the way here, and that's when Naruto's own voice interrupted him before he could finish his sentence. Enough. He exclaimed, withdrawing his arm from his teacher's grasp, causing Jiraiya to immediately stop talking. I don't want to hear any more of this, so how about we just get started on our mission? Don't you think that would be good for everyone, Ero Sennin? He asked, feigning kindness. Oh well, Gaki, that's no problem for me. Come on. He was about to continue walking when Naruto's voice stopped him for the second time, and this time he couldn't deny the tinge of fear in his heart. However, Ero Sennin, you'll have to rely on your ears while walking. The boy stated matter-of-factly, his face emotionless. The older man's expression says it all, because it was filled with confusion. After a few moments, Jiraiya's eyes widened with realization before she looked at Naruto with pleading eyes. No. Please, Gaki, have mercy on me. He pleaded on his knees, crying anime tears and clutching Naruto's vest. You'll have to learn not to be late again, Ero Sennin. That style has already been taken by Kakashi-sensei, he smirked before locking eyes with Jiraiya. Damn it all, the pervert muttered to himself as his vision went black. Naruto smirked as Jiraiya began to use his hands to feel his surroundings, as if he were blind. He is one right now because he recently lost his sight, albeit temporarily. The boy then looked around and noticed that many people were still on the street, which caused him to face palm. Why did I have to blind Ero Sennin here? He wondered as his face dropped. I'm such an idiot. He exclaimed, hitting himself in the head with his palm for a few moments before sighed and shrugged. Oh, well. It's not like the villagers won't find out about her, anyway. He said, shifting his gaze back to his teacher and clearing his throat. Hey, Ero Sennin? He inquired. This was a stupid plan, but Naruto will have to live with the consequences because he did it without thinking. Look, I'm sorry, Gaki, said the pervert, pleadingly. Don't you think you've already taken away my sight? I know. He tried to reassure Jiraiya. That's why I'd like you to do something for me, okay? He said cheerfully, but inside he was feeling quite differently. This is unbelievable. He shook his head to return his attention to his sensei. You can't see me, but can you hear me? Jiraiya gave a nod. Then listen to my voice and come up to me. If you do this, Ero Sennin, I'll restore your sight. Jiraiya sighed and shrugged as he moved in front of Naruto. It was difficult for him because he had to be careful not to step on anything. It's coming. So, Gaki, what do you want me to do now? The older man groaned, as he didn't want to put up with this nonsense. He wanted to get started on the mission right away because Tsunade was jumping from place to place, doing who knows what every second they were still in the village. When he noticed Naruto wasn't speaking in his place, he thought to himself, come on, what's taking you so long? What he didn't realize was that Naruto was busy examining a few hand seals to determine where he was. He'd already bitten his thumb. Hey, Gaki? He asked, pretending to be innocent. What took you so long? Ero Sennin, I just did a few hand seals. As Jiraiya raised an eyebrow in perplexity, Naruto slammed his right palm against the ground. Kuchios no Jutsu! He exclaimed as a cloud of smoke appeared in front of him. Jiraiya's eyes widened in surprise, though it's difficult to tell where he was looking. "Hello, Mika. Nice to see you here," Naruto exclaimed as his summon partner emerged from behind the smoke. "Nice to see you back, Mika. Mind giving me a hand here?" the boy asked politely, ignoring the massive crowd that was staring at him with stunned expressions. "Ero Sennin made me wait here for his stupid research, even though I thought he was already here." Mika? Jiraiya thought to himself before he face-palmed. He messed up big time, and Naruto would surely punish him now. What is he even planning? He asked. Naruto could do whatever he wanted to Jiraiya now that he had summoned his phoenix. I should never have taught him that blasted technique. He berated himself as he braced himself for the worst. What do you want me to do? She asked bluntly, completely ignoring the crowd of people watching them as well. Come here, I'll explain. The phoenix nodded before flying towards Naruto's shoulder as he explained his plans. Jiraiya was sweating profusely, terrified of what would happen to him. A few moments later, the boy finished his little command, giving his partner a knowing look. Did you get everything? She nodded and flew away from Naruto's shoulder. Then let's get moving, we don't have all day to stay here. He groaned as he turned around, heading for the village's massive green gate. Mika flew behind him and grabbed Jiraiya by his shoulders through his clothes, just like she does with Naruto when she takes him somewhere. Hey, why am I being lifted off the ground? Exclaimed Jiraiya, uneasy as his feet separated from the ground. Gaki? Is your phoenix planning to kill me or something? He cried out in terror, trying to break free from Mika's grip, but her feet had a firmer grip on his shoulders. Please relax, Jiraiya-san. If you continue resisting, I may accidentally let go of you and you could end up getting hurt, Mika said as she flew behind Naruto while carrying the pervert on her feet, passing all of the villagers. Then tell me what the hell you and Gaki were talking about earlier, please? He tried hard not to sound angry, but he was at the time. Jiraiya disliked being played by younger ninja with tricks and jokes. While he may be a pervert who enjoys making people laugh, he knows when to get serious, and the time had come. They were wasting time and needed to get started on their mission right away. I was only doing what Naruto told me to do, so I have nothing to do with what you're complaining about. Even though he couldn't see her, the Sannin was looking up at her as she spoke. Jiraiya's attention was drawn to his student after hearing her words, who appeared to be walking normally on the ground from what he could hear down below. Well, Ero Sennin, consider your blindness a punishment for arriving later than expected. I assumed you were expecting me, and I was already apologizing by the time I arrived. But you weren't present when I did. Why? You had to go on yet another pointless research trip. Now, Ero Sennin, be a good boy and just accept your punishment, okay? And just keep your cool up there in the air, he advised his teacher without looking back. I promise Mika will not abandon you. And, by the way, you're not really that high in the sky, just a few feet above my head, so there's nothing to be concerned about, Ero Sennin. So just take in the scenery while I take care of everything for the time being. Instead of me making your life in Konoha a living hell, we need to get started on our mission. As he walked down the rest of the main street, he was being followed by many of the villagers, owing to Mika. Jiraiya sighed in relief after hearing Naruto's words, knowing that his student had let him off the hook. While he was extremely uncomfortable being carried up into the air by a phoenix, he had to admit that temporarily losing his sight had some advantages. Oh well. At least I won't see how high I am right now. He reflected. At the very least, while I'm up here, I can rest my legs. He continued, thinking of something positive despite his current situation. He was already sound asleep a few moments later, enjoying the fact that he didn't have to walk a very long distance right away, making him look like a ghost flying through the sky. However, before they could leave the village, two familiar faces blocked Naruto's path, halting the youngster. "Do you have any reason for leaving the village?" Izumo inquired, raising an eyebrow at Naruto. "Sandaime-sama gave me and Jiraiya-sensei the mission to find Tsunade Senju," Naruto replied, bowing to the pervert before raising an eyebrow at both of them. "Are you aware of that mission? Did you get word of it? So you and Jiraiya-sama were chosen to do the mission, huh?" Kotetsu asked, smiling at the blonde Uzumaki. "Take my advice, kid. Lady Tsunade packs a punch, so don't mess with her unless you want to die." He then looked up to see Jiraiya's sleeping figure being carried in the air by Mika. "Is that thing with you?" he inquired, his gaze drawn to the phoenix behind him. Naruto turned around and laughed heartily. "Oh, Mika?" he said. "Don't worry, she's right here with me. Don't worry about Ero Sennin either. You don't have to worry about him being unconscious or anything because he's just sleeping." He then walked past them, trailing behind his summon partner. "Oh, and this phoenix is completely harmless," Naruto concluded by pointing behind him, specifically at Mika. "She's my summon animal, so don't be alarmed because there's no monster like the Kyuubi that's about to wreak havoc in the village," he added, sarcastically addressing the villagers. "She's not going to hurt anyone unless she comes to defend me, take note. Best wishes." Izumo stated loudly for Naruto to hear that he supported him on this. Kotetsu only grinned and waved his arm goodbye, no other words coming out of his mouth. Naruto also waved his arm without turning around to respond. Jiraiya was still sleeping and snoring loudly, which didn't seem to bother the phoenix who was holding him. When the boy and his sensei were out of sight for them to see, they exchanged glances before grinning. When they turned around to look at the village, they were met by the shocked expressions of many villagers, all of their jaws glued to the ground. The two Chunins exchanged another glance before sighing and raising a hand to their brow, forgetting that they had to deal with the large crowd that Naruto's phoenix had attracted. "Curse you, Naruto Uzumaki," they thought to themselves as they prepared their ears for what was to come. Wait, what was that? Otogakure, Orochimaru's lab. "Uzumaki, curse you." As he shattered another set of test tubes, Orochimaru cursed aloud. Apparently, his spy, Kabuto, had just finished studying his arms and attempted to heal them because he was also a fantastic medic ninja. To the Sanin's chagrin, despite his vast knowledge of healing, Kabuto did nothing to treat his arms and was left cursing the blonde Uzumaki he fought in Konoha. He was torn between keeping him alive as a potential vessel and killing him out of vengeance after Naruto rendered his chakra network on his arms completely useless. Orochimaru lost his ability to manipulate and mold chakra in his arms the moment Naruto performed an unknown fuinjutsu on his arms that he was unaware of, which meant he couldn't use any jutsus that required hand seals anymore. Of course, even if his plan to transform Naruto's body into his vessel failed, he still had someone in mind. Kabuto told him about how Sasuke became unstable and lost control of himself during the invasion, as well as about Sasuke's Mangekyo. This only piqued Orochimaru's interest in the Uchiha and fueled his desire to claim his body. He knew what the Mangekyo Sharingan was because he had done extensive research on many things all over the world. The last Mangekyo he saw with his own eyes were Itachi Uchiha's. He had previously attempted to claim Itachi's body while still a member of the Akatsuki, but had failed. "Please forgive me, Orochimaru-sama. This type of injury is beyond my comprehension. If only I knew what that kid used against you," said Kabuto, looking down at the floor in shame, which only made Orochimaru scowl. If Naruto hadn't appeared when they were completely secluded inside the barrier that his loyal Sound 4 had created, he could have killed his former master and teacher. Despite this, Naruto demonstrated that his presence was beneficial when Orochimaru discovered that he possessed an unknown dojutsu that may be more powerful than the Sharingan itself. It can't be helped. There's only one person who can help me right now, he said, sweating profusely. Since losing his arm's chakra network, he's been in a lot of pain, and it's a minor miracle that he's still alive. Who could that be? Kabuto wondered, raising an eyebrow and pushing his glasses up. My former teammate, the Slug Princess, Tsunade Senju. He grumbled. He knew a lot about Tsunade because they were teammates back then. And when it came to healing someone, she wasn't your typical healer who would heal for no apparent reason. When he asks her to heal him, she will undoubtedly suspect him and demand to know why he wants to be healed. And I know exactly how to persuade her to do so, he said as he struggled to his feet from the chair he was sitting in. Get in touch with our spies. We're leaving right now. Since she left Konoha, she's been a hitchhiker who enjoys gambling, but her luck couldn't save her from what happened back then. He smirked, remembering why Tsunade left Konoha in the first place. 3 hours later, in a mysterious forest. You say Itachi Uchiha? Jiraiya asked, raising an eyebrow as he and Naruto leaned back against separate trees. They've been traveling for hours, with Naruto being the only one who got tired because he walked his way. Jiraiya, on the other hand, lived the dream while conserving energy because Mika carried him through the air. In all honesty, what happened to him could hardly be described as punishment. Naruto restored his sight just moments ago, and the two decided to rest in a nearby forest because the blonde needed to catch his breath. Mika had already left the Summon Realm, but not before Naruto thanked her for her assistance. Jiraiya thanked her as well, though for different reasons. There's no mistaking it, Naruto said, sipping from the water jug he'd brought with him. I saw his Sharingan, and I know of no one else who has it besides Sasuke. He took a bento box from his backpack and began eating from it, which he had prepared earlier before leaving his house as his lunch. He and some strange shark-like guy ended up fighting Kakashi-sensei, Asuma-sensei, and Kurenai-sensei. During this particular rest, Naruto explained why he was late for their mission, and Jiraiya appeared to be interested in his words when he mentioned Itachi's name. He then inquired as to what happened to him after he left home, and Naruto explained how he witnessed Kakashi fighting two unknown men before being severely beaten down. Can you tell me why he was in Konoha? Does it have anything to do with his brother? He inquired. Jiraiya had a wild guess as to why a village traitor would show up despite his infamy among the villages, but he needed to be certain of his ideas first before assuming anything. I'm not sure. But Asuma-sensei told me that they were after me after we fought them off. Jiraiya's eyes widened as he responded. His intuition was correct. Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki did indeed appear in Konoha. Of course, as a traveling ninja, he was well versed in a wide range of topics, including the Akatsuki. He was aware of some of the organization's members, but not all of them. He had his own spy network to thank for this, proving that he is more than just a pervert when it comes to women. So they're acting so quickly? Wait, I need to make sure it was them. He returned his attention to Naruto. Uchiha Itachi. What was he wearing? He asked, raising an eyebrow and feigning confusion. Did he dress in the traditional Konoha garb? Or was he dressed differently? He may be a traitor to the village, but no matter how many times the villagers deny it, he was still a part of it. As a result, he may still have the clothes he wore in Konoha back in the day. No, he and the guy fighting with him were dressed the same. It was strange, but creepy at the same time. Naruto said, scratching his chin. They were both dressed in black cloaks with red clouds all over them, with high collars. While Itachi Uchiha wasn't wearing anything else, the other guy. Was it Kisame? He had a huge sword as a weapon, but I'm not sure how it could be considered one when it was covered in bandages. I was correct. They were dispatched to capture Naruto. Jiraiya thought to himself as he stroked his chin in deep thought. To think they're making their move now, despite Naruto still being a child. Wait a second, he doesn't know they're Akatsuki? He returned his gaze to the blonde. And you went up against them? Yeah, I did. They were surprised when I started fighting them with my dojutsu. So there's no need to be concerned in Konoha because I drove them away. He then crossed his arms and expressed his displeasure. I don't understand why Asuma-sensei had to scold me like that. All I did was get rid of those two jerks who killed Kakashi-sensei. I didn't do anything wrong. It can't be avoided. I need to keep an eye on him from now on. He could be ambushed at any time by one of their members, but why did he use his dojutsu? That was quite immature of him. If that Gaki intends for the entire world to know what he is capable of, he has just made himself a living target. A lot of money will be placed on his head, then. I think I understand why Sensei's son scolded him after fighting Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki off. He looked at Naruto. I suppose I can see why he used his eyes. Since we were training together before the exams, he told me that he doesn't have a strong affinity for any element, which makes him weaker when using elemental jutsus, and that's why he prefers to use his space techniques instead. Oh well. I guess I can pass on something Minato left for him to learn so that he will have something else in his arsenal besides his Uchtengan. And I have a feeling the Gaki will make his dad proud once he knows how to do it. He smiled in his thoughts as a mental image of his student appeared in his mind. Ero Sennin? Naruto inquired, snapping his fingers in front of Jiraiya's face. What's the matter? For a split second, you appear disoriented. Jiraiya then smacked Naruto across the head. I thought I told you not to call me that? He screamed, and Naruto simply responded with a disinterested expression on his face, causing the older man to sigh. He chuckled to himself before clearing his throat. He won't be able to refuse this offer. Well, it turns out that you're going to get yourself in trouble when the time comes, he said, raising a finger, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow. What exactly do you mean? Didn't you notice that you just demonstrated your true abilities to two strangers who could be working in any other village other than Konoha? Knowing Naruto's reaction to his question, he asked with a smirk. The blonde's eyes widened in surprise as he stared at Jiraiya, his mouth gaping. Naruto buried his face in his hands after the pervert only nodded in response. Shit, I completely missed it. He cursed himself. I'm such a moron. Now I'm going to be famous all over the world. He then screamed angrily, ruffling his hair furiously. Why do I have to act like a moron the majority of the time? I was nothing like this during the invasion. He finished, spitting out the last few words. I must be affected by hero worship or something. Jiraiya only laughed as he saw Naruto berating himself. Ah, don't feel bad, Gaki. He consoled the blonde, prompting the latter to scowl at his teacher. Look, I understand your situation because you have no strong affinity for any element. I see why you used your dojutsu. Do you have that? Naruto gave a nod. In fact, I believe I have a good technique to teach you. It will be useful if you need an advantage in your battles. You do realize I don't have a strong affinity in all the elements, right? A sweaty Naruto asked. No, there is no need for any affinity at all. All you need is excellent chakra control, concentration, and the chakra within your body. It is the highest form of shape transformation and a rank technique created by the Yondaime when he was still alive. It's one of the most powerful techniques known in the shinobi world, and only a few people, including myself, have mastered and are capable of performing it almost all of the time. He finished before standing up, extending his right arm and opening his palm. What are you doing? Asked Naruto, perplexed. Gaki, watch and learn. Jiraiya replied with a grin, turning his gaze to his arm. Naruto also looked at his right arm, but with a bored expression. This was a complete waste of my time. Nobody would benefit from staring at nothing. He had no idea that he would eat those words. A few seconds later, blue chakra began to emanate from his hand before spinning in all directions, growing larger by the second. Naruto's eyes widened as he took in what he was seeing. After a few more moments, the chakra on Jiraiya's palm had transformed into a ball-like shape and was still spinning in all directions. Naruto was taken aback by how badass and cool this technique appeared to be for him. "Take a look at this, Gaki. However, you should take a step back," he informed his student, capturing his attention. Jiraiya then looked around and slammed the spinning ball of chakra into a nearby tree. Naruto looked around the room, his gaze fixed on the ball Jiraiya held in his palm. His teacher only used his own chakra to create that technique, so it didn't require any elemental affinities. The spinning ball of chakra vanished beneath Jiraiya's palm about 10 seconds later, while it was still on the tree trunk he had just attacked. Jiraiya smiled as he drew his arm from the tree, revealing a spiral-shaped crater left by his technique. "Whoa!" exclaimed Naruto, completely taken aback by what Jiraiya had just shown him. "What was that trick? That was fantastic. What is it called?" He paused for a moment before continuing, "That. It is known as the Rasengan. It is the jutsu that the Yondaime spent 3 years mastering and perfecting, and it is based on the Bijudama of a tailed beast, which explains its spherical form as well as the chakra required to perform it. It does not require hand seals, and all you need is very good chakra control. It's the technique I intended to teach you. Educate me. What do you do?" With a wide grin, Naruto stood up and looked at Jiraiya with a twinkle in his eyes. "Arrow Sennin, please. You have to show me how." The pervert first sweated at Naruto's cheerful expression before clearing his throat to compose himself. "I believe we should get moving. If we don't, we might get caught in the rain, and the last thing I want to do right now is get sick because of a weather change." He then picked up his bag and slung it over his shoulder before walking away, leaving Naruto trailing behind. Jiraiya had to slap his hand over his mouth to stop himself from laughing. "How about me? I thought you were going to show me how to do that." Naruto looked perplexed, caught off guard when Jiraiya simply left him hanging. Jiraiya came to a halt and looked at Naruto. "We have plenty of time, Gaki, to get you started on your training. It's not like we're being hurried. And it's fine if you don't want to accompany me. Allow yourself to be soaked by the rain." When he saw Naruto's scowl, he came to a halt in his speech. The older man cleared his throat, resuming his speech. "Anyway, while I was flying around earlier, I noticed a nearby town not far from here. We should check into a nearby hotel and spend the night. I'd rather sleep on a room's floor than on the ground. Then, after we've settled our differences, we could begin with your training. What do you think?" He finished his question with a grin. "All right," said Naruto with determination, punching the air with his fist while smiling. "Once I master this technique, I'll be even stronger." "It's true." Jiraiya shook his head amusingly. "This kid has a lot of potential. He reminds me of you, Kushina." He thought to himself as Naruto slung his backpack over his shoulders and followed his teacher to the nearest town. After a week, an unknown city. 2 women were walking along the empty streets on the outskirts of town. Nobody else was out walking because the 2 women were approaching the city's landmark, a large white castle. The first lady had fair skin, brown eyes, and long, pale blonde hair. She wore a green with the kanji for gamble imprinted on the back, inside a red circle, and a purple diamond on her forehead. She's wearing a kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, which is held closed by a dark, bluish-gray obi. The blouse was quite low for an average woman, exposing some of her massive cleavage. She was wearing open-toed sandals with high heels on her feet. Tsunade Senju was the granddaughter of Hashirama Senju, one of the legendary Sannin and the world's most renowned medical ninja. The other was a fair-skinned woman with black eyes and hair. Her hair was straight and reached her shoulders, with bangs that framed her face and covered her ears. She was dressed in a long bluish-black kimono with white trimmings and a white obi. She wore open-toed sandals with low heels as well. Shizune Kato was Dan Kato's niece and Tsunade Senju's apprentice. A.N. Shizune needed to have a surname. Tsunade-sama, let's go see the castle here. Tsunade's ninja pig, Tauntaun, was hugged close to her chest by the black-haired woman. According to legend, the castle became famous because it was never destroyed by invaders from other countries. We should go see it for ourselves. It's just around the corner, after all. We won't be here long. Tsunade groaned. Do whatever you want, Shizune. She groaned, not wanting to be in a bad mood right now. Tsunade-sama, you should relax a little. Are you really that worried about your luck? You don't have to be sad because you've won several times before. In fact, you should be pleased with yourself. Thank you, Shizune, she said with a sarcastic tone in her voice. It was correct. She had a winning streak at the small casino where they were earlier about an hour before. Tsunade wasn't exactly known for being the luckiest person on the planet. In fact, it could be the opposite. Despite her obvious love of gambling, she has always lost every bet she has placed. Although there were very few occasions when her hard work paid off and she won her bets. But it was usually followed by something bad, which could be physical or emotional. As a result, she appeared stressed at the time, and she wasn't in the mood to deal with any problems that might arise. Shizune then dashed towards the location of the castle. She then found a good spot with a clear view of the beautiful landmark and decided to stay there so she wouldn't have to go somewhere far away from Tsunade. The last thing she needed was a raging Tsunade discovering her absence. Wow. It's enormous, she remarked as she took in the view of the castle. The place was mostly white, but it had blue roofs on all of its sides. She then turned around to face her teacher. Tsunade-sama. You should look into it. The castle is stunning. Tsunade sighed as she began her journey to Shizune's location. It didn't take her long to find her apprentice, and the two of them were now staring at the castle together. Do you think it's beautiful, Tsunade-sama? She asked the Sannin. Tsunade only rolled her eyes at Shizune's remark, still wary of her surroundings. Something bad could happen right under their noses, and Tsunade needed to make sure it wasn't a big deal. But she became distracted when the ground began to shake violently, as if an earthquake were taking place. What's going on? Shizune wondered as she struggled to keep her balance and stay on her feet. I'm not sure, Shizune, exclaimed Tsunade, silently cursing herself. But I have a feeling that this is the price I have to pay because I have won several times before. Tsunade's unreasonable and pointless reason only made the younger girl sweat. The castle they were looking at suddenly collapsed to the ground, leaving smoke and dust all over the place. When the dust got into Tsunade and Shizune's eyes and mouth, they started coughing. Tsunade narrowed her eyes as the dust cleared to reveal a massive snake on top of all the rubble and debris. When she saw a snake, only one person came to mind, and they weren't exactly the best of friends when they were kids. Shizune and her then noticed two people on top of the large snake. I haven't seen Tsunade in a long time. As Kabuto and him jumped to the ground, Orochimaru said with an evil grin. Tsunade kept a stern expression on her face as they approached the two medical ninjas, while Shizune immediately assumed a battle stance in case things got ugly. Orochimaru, Tsunade replied, neutrally greeting her former teammate. Even though they hadn't seen each other in a long time, she didn't care because they had their own business to attend to. You could either talk about the good old days or come here if you needed something from me. But we both know that you can never choose the first option, so spill it. What exactly do you expect from me? She crossed her arms and looked at her fellow Sannin. My, Tsunade, you're as perceptive as ever. Sometimes I wonder which of us is more knowledgeable." Tsunade narrowed her eyes, knowing that Orochimaru was intent on playing mind games before revealing his true intentions. "Well, Tsunade, I came to see you for a small favor." The Slug Princess then turned her attention to Orochimaru's body and began to inspect him. "He's not looking well," she thought, before noticing that both of his arms were limp at his sides, covered in bandages. What became of his arms? Wait, is this why they came to find me? Kukakuku, I'm guessing you now know what it is. Orochimaru inquired amusingly. Tsunade, I believe you can already guess why we came. Tsunade's suspicions were confirmed by Kabuto. Find another medic nin, she said firmly, turning her head away without even looking at Orochimaru's arms. I stopped healing people a long time ago. Even if it was a former teammate, I won't heal anyone any longer. That's the point, explained Kabuto. We came to you because no other medic nin can heal an injury like this. You see what happened to Orochimaru's arms, Sama's, don't you? Tsunade raised an eyebrow and looked again at the man's arms, wondering if it was really as bad as they said. Your arms. Those aren't simple injuries. She reasoned after her next discovery. A fuinjutsu. His arm isn't emitting any chakra at all. It's as if he didn't have a chakra network to begin with. She then returned her attention to Orochimaru. What caused you to be injured in the first place? You couldn't have gotten this without first starting somewhere. Let's just say it was a price I had to pay for attacking Konoha, he half-joked, trying to hide his irritation, causing Tsunade and Shizune to widen their eyes. Let me make a guess. Did you have Sensei's phone number? No, it wasn't that damn old man, Orochimaru snarled angrily. It was that damn genin who got his face all over the place. This was done to you by a genin? That is difficult for me to believe, Tsunade chuckled as she lamented Orochimaru's demise. It doesn't matter whether you believe me or not, he said angrily, his smirk hidden. Tsunade is unaware of Naruto, despite the fact that the boy has been featured in bingo books since the invasion. This also means he'll be able to persuade his former teammate much more easily than he anticipated. I'll get right to the point. Tsunade, I need you to heal me, he stated emphatically. What happens next? How would you react? She then placed her hands on her hips, suspiciously raising an eyebrow at her former teammate. Well, if you must know the truth, I would then destroy Konoha. Tsunade and Shizune's eyes widened in surprise. That's why, Tsunade, I need you to heal me. He then spoke more solemnly, wanting to get this over with. Tsunade-sama would never work with you, exclaimed the younger woman before turning her gaze to her master. Please, Tsunade-sama, assist me in killing them. While Orochimaru is unable to use his arms, as you stated, this is our opportunity to get rid of him. She begged, not wanting Tsunade to fall for something devious perpetrated by one of the Leaf's greatest adversaries. Tsunade smirked. That sounds more like an order, Orochimaru, she grumbled, her knuckles cracked. Kabuto spoke up in support of his master. Let's keep it civil here. We came here to bargain, not to fight. He tried to get between them, not wanting to cause trouble at this critical juncture. You have 3 seconds to spill it before I send you two flying out of here. She then began releasing some killer intent, causing Shizune to slowly back away from her teacher. That simply will not do. Will it? Despite Tsunade's threat, Orochimaru appeared to remain calm. 1. She started. Please try to see reason here, Kabuto begged, hoping to avoid trouble. 2. We don't deal with traitors, Shizune stated coldly for the first time in minutes. You're a talker, sneered Snake Sanin. Last I checked, you hadn't been to the village in 15 years, which included the Kyuubi attack and the recent invasion about a week ago. You could have chosen to defend your hometown, but you knew you couldn't. Not after your lover died, he continued to play mind games, grinning evilly. 3 times 3. She then drew her fist back and gathered her strength for a second before punching the wall beside her, breaking it completely. She then looked at Orochimaru with killing intent, implying that she was about to attack him, but the man didn't seem to be moved by her small display of strength. She then dashed towards him, pulling her arm back. Ha! Who happens to be someone I can bring back with your dear sweet little Nawaki? Tsunade became immobile. Shizune turned to her teacher as soon as she heard Orochimaru's statement. She knew that discussing the woman's brother was a sensitive subject for her, and she didn't like talking about Nawaki to anyone, let alone Tsunade's apprentice. "Tease Tsunade-sama?" she exclaimed, her eyes widening as she saw her teacher suddenly stop in her tracks. Kabuto grinned. "Now we're getting somewhere," he said, seeing that his master had succeeded in entering the Slug Princess's mind. "How is that possible?" she stuttered as she recovered from her shock. Orochimaru grinned evilly. "Oh, you don't know about your own great, forbidden uncle's jutsu, do you?" Tsunade's eyes widened and her mouth dropped open in surprise. "What do you mean?" "Precisely." Orochimaru laughed to himself again, enjoying her reaction. He knew from their friendship that she was extremely sensitive to any topic involving her loved ones, particularly two specific people. They were Dan Kato, Tsunade's late teenage boyfriend who died while fighting in the Second World War, and Nawaki, Tsunade's younger brother who also died during the same war due to an explosive trap. They were one of, if not the, most important people in her life, and it was their deaths that drove her to leave the village. Their deaths have haunted her ever since, and she hasn't completely moved on, making her uncomfortable when discussing the two. Kabuto decided to elaborate a little more. "He will resurrect both your late lover and brother in exchange for healing Orochimaru arms. Sama's, of course, you'll need 2 living sacrifices to carry out the jutsu, so keep that in mind, Tsunade." Seconds went by. Tsunade's mouth remained silent, causing Orochimaru and Kabuto to smirk. They had her. Because she was trapped in her own trance, she seemed to be under some kind of personal genjutsu. Inside the medic head, ninja battle was raging, telling her what she should and should not do. She would give anything to see and talk with Nawaki and Dan again, but there were a few reasons. Shizune looked at Tsunade with concern. Finally, the Slug Princess has gone an entire minute without responding. Her apprentice decided to speak up for the older woman at this point. "Tease Tsunade-sama. Why, you can't be thinking." "Shut up, Shizune," she yelled, causing her apprentice to flee in terror. It was the first time Tsunade had spoken to her with such venom and anger in her tone, and it sent chills down her spine. "Kukakuku, you don't have to respond right now, Tsunade," Orochimaru said, amused at seeing the Slug Princess in a quandary within her. "I'll give you 1 week. We'll meet in the open field east of town, and you must have your answer ready. Bring 2 living sacrifices with you if you want to resurrect both Dan and Nawaki. Tsunade, I hope you consider my offer," he then addressed his own apprentice. "Kabuto, how about we part ways?" The bespectacled man nodded, and Orochimaru gave Tsunade one last smirk before sunshining out of there. Shizune focused solely on her master now that they were gone. "Tsunade-sama, you're not taking what they're saying seriously, are you?" Tsunade did not respond. At the same time, in the city's casino. "You still haven't paid back your debt, woman," yelled a mysterious figure as he scanned the casino. "Where have you gone? You better show up or I'll give you a good thrashing." He was a tall, fair-skinned man with striking white hair. He had white eyes with a bluish tint to each one. He was dressed casually in a white hoodie, black pants, and dark brown hiking boots. "You're not going anywhere." He then jumped up on one of the tables and looked around, looking for someone specific. "Dude. Could you please leave the damn table? There are people here eating. Screamed one of the people sitting at the table's side. The man's gaze was drawn to the other man who had complained about him. What in the world do you think I am? Ichiro, you scumbag. He screamed back, his voice sending shivers down the man's spine. Tell me, Tsunade, where is the Queen of Debts? I have a bone to pick with her. I'll beat her to a pulp if she doesn't pay her debt. T. Tsunade? I believe she left the casino about an hour ago, said another man on the opposite side of the table, emotionlessly. Ichiro smiled as he turned to face him. Thank you, man. I'll be eternally grateful for your assistance. He then jumped off the table and ran out of the casino. He smirked as he stepped outside and looked down the street. You're not going to get away from me, Tsunade. You're going to pay your debt. One way or another.
That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.